Beef. It's what I serve most days on Fearless, and it's what I do best. I beef with people in the media. Welcome to Beef. We're now at number 32. Scoop Jackson. Wow. Scoop Jackson, number 32 on the beef list. Some of you may not even know the name Scoop Jackson. You may not be familiar with Scoop. He's been off the radar for probably the last 5-7 years, if not longer. But my beef with Scoop Jackson began in 2006. Scoop was someone that ESPN started leaning into in the mid-2000s. He was a guy that came up out of Chicago, writing about the NBA, writing about sneaker culture, writing for Slam magazine. Slam magazine covers the NBA allegedly, but Slam is mostly a sneaker magazine. It's a hype magazine for basketball players and gym shoes. Scoop wrote for Slam. Scoop, not a very good writer. Not grammatically sound, not intellectually sound, can't tell a story, but Slam Magazine didn't care. All you have to do is put on some sort of super black, super sneaker culture shtick, and you could write for Slam Magazine. He was appropriate for Slam Magazine. ESPN, in its infinite wisdom, was like, hey, we need to do some of that. We need some of that Slam Magazine writing over here at ESPN. And so at some point, 2004, 5, 2003 or what, they started leaning into Scoop Jackson, and he started writing for Page 2. You guys remember from ESPN.com's heyday, Page 2 was a terrific site on ESPN.com where myself and Bill Simmons and Ralph Wiley and Hunter S. Thompson wrote. And the next thing you know, there was a little clown named Scoop Jackson writing for ESPN Page 2. And they started leaning in and promoting that, and he started appearing on TV. And I'm talking about this guy probably wrote at a 8th or 9th grade level. I'm not exaggerating, but he fit the profile. He was really what they have now in Stephen A. Smith was intended for Scoop Jackson. He had a little nickname, Scoop. He was uneducated, unqualified for his job, therefore easy to control. And so when ESPN started leaning into him and started promoting him as if he were some sort of important voice, yeah, gotta admit, it triggered me. And I sat there and I bit my tongue and I watched it and I was like, this is crazy. This is the worldwide leader in sports. And they're leaning into this little black dude who can't write a lick, can't think a lick. And at some point he wrote a column in the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, where he said that he was writing about himself, and he was saying that what he accomplished, making it as a sports writer, the lead columnist at ESPN.com, that was more difficult than making it to the NBA or making it in professional sports. He was beating his chest, and he called himself the heir to Ralph Wiley. And I'm like, oh, cow, Ralph Wiley's one of my best friends. He's a very talented writer. He's an accomplished journalist. He wrote for Sports Illustrated. You know, Scoop Jackson is the heir to Ralph Wiley? That's crazy. Scoop Jackson's out writing that what he did is harder than making it in professional sports. I'm like, hey, Scoop, you've been given a job just with no writing skills. They just handed you a job. That, generally speaking, unless your name is Bronny James and it's 2024, you just don't get handed these sports roster positions. You just don't get to make it in professional sports just because someone wants you to. Generally speaking, you have to earn it. And so I ended up writing a column in the Kansas City Star, calling him out and trashing Scoop Jackson. And then I turned around and did an interview with the big lead. a long interview with the big league where I really called Scoop Jackson, and I also called out Mike Lupica in that interview, that back and forth. And it's one of the most infamous blog interviews ever done. Everybody read it. You know, I said something about Scoop's fake ghetto posturing and why would ESPN be leaning into this. And anyway, it caused a big stir. It caused Scoop to whine and cry. And it made many people in black sports media very, very upset. Man, you went on the short bus and beat up one of them little kids, Whitlock. Everybody knows Scoop is our mascot. Leave him alone. Why you got to call him out like this, blah? I called him out because I could see where the industry was going. I'm telling you, this is in 2006. And I'm like, the worldwide leader in sports is making someone who's completely unqualified the face of their website. And they're doing it with a black dude. This is crazy. What does it say about black sports writers that actually have talent, earn their stripes, are qualified and accomplished, that they would lean into a Scoop Jackson? Someone's got to stop this. Many people in black sports media upset. They liked what was being established with Scoop Jackson. They liked the fact that qualifications and merit were being eliminated, and they wanted to hop on the same gravy train as Scoop Jackson. So when you hear a lot of people, particularly black sports media people, talking about they hate me, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I called ESPN out for elevating Scoop Jackson to such a high-profile position. And again, when I went back to ESPN, because again, this is in 2006, this interview I did where I called out him and Mike Lupica, ESPN disavowed me at that point, said I couldn't come on their network anymore, and I was good with that. When I went back to ESPN 7-8 years later, oh God, I had to go on this, I wouldn't say an apology tour, but this guilt tour of all these ESPN executives upset with me, and you owe Scoop Jackson an apology. How could you do that? And I don't owe Scoop Jackson no apology. I worked at Fox Sports and the Kansas City Star when I wrote that. We weren't teammates. I got to say what I think, and that's what I think. But everybody was upset with me for criticizing little Scoop Jackson. He was everybody's favorite pet Negro over at ESPN, and I wouldn't play along and treat Scoop Jackson like he was some journalistic giant that needed to be respected. People were upset with me about it. Scoop ended up writing a long piece on ESPN.com talking about the necessariness of civility, and that I was uncivilized towards him and wasn't civil in my comments towards him, which I wasn't and really wasn't that concerned with. Again, we didn't play on the same team in my mind, and he was completely undermining qualified black journalists from getting opportunities because they were leaning into clowns. So, of course, I refused to apologize even in my second go around with ESPN, and many people know me as someone who basically buried Scoop Jackson. I took all the shine off of what ESPN was trying to do with Scoop Jackson and made that an impossibility. And maybe it wasn't worth it because they just pivoted to Stephen A. Smith. They found a new clown, and they found a new puppet that they could put strings on, and they found another unqualified person to be the face of ESPN. So Scoop Jackson, I probably cost him millions upon millions of dollars. He should be what Stephen A. Smith is. And maybe me taking Scoop out really served no purpose because Stephen A. Smith just as unqualified as Scoop Jackson. But so that's the history on my beef with Scoop Jackson. Checking in at number 32, Scoop.